Welcome to my channel, Starlight Sci-Fi. Story, thanks for watching, please like and subscribe. The warning alarm began. As a soft chime, Jonah Hale ignored it. Out at Station Kestrel, alarms were like dust always floating around, rarely important, a pressure fluctuation, a loose antenna, a cargo drone that forgot how to dock again, nothing that needed panic. He took another sip of his burnt coffee and leaned back in his chair, boots resting on the console. Outside, the main viewport space stretched forever, quiet, cold, and empty, just how he liked it. Then the alarm changed. Not louder, sharper. Jonah frowned and pulled his boots down. The sensor screen flashed a symbol he had never seen before. Unidentified mass, no entry vector. He blinked. No entry vector, he muttered. That's not a thing. Every ship entered a system in a measurable way. Warp, wake, gate, exit, engine flare. Something. This object had simply appeared. He tapped commands, bringing up visual feed. At first he thought the camera was glitching. The shape on screen looked wrong, not the hard lines of metal holes, not the angles of cargo ships or patrol craft. This ship curved. Its surface shimmered like wet stone under sunlight. Faint veins of light pulsed beneath the hull like slow-moving lightning trapped under glass, and it was tumbling. Okay, Jonah whispered, sitting forward. You are not normal. New data scrolled in. Hull damage detected, power failing, life signs. Before he could think further, the comm panel crackled. A voice came through. Female, comm clear. Unknown station. This vessel requests emergency docking. Propulsion failure is imminent. Jonah hesitated. Protocol said, report unknown alien. Contact to Colonial Command. Protocol also said, don't get involved in things above your pay grade. But the ship on his screen was dying, and there was only one life sign. He opened the docking channel. This is Station Kestrel, he said. Bay 2 is open. Try not to crash into anything expensive. I just fixed it. There was a pause, then, understood. Thank you. Her voice held control, but beneath it was strain. Jonah watched the ship struggle toward the station. One engine flared unevenly. The vessel shuddered like a wounded animal forcing itself to walk. Despite the damage, the piloting was smooth, precise, skilled. Whoever you are, he muttered. You're good. The ship settled into the bay. With only a small jolt, Jonah was already pulling on his work jacket. Airlock door slid open with a soft hiss. Jonah expected something monstrous. Instead, a woman stepped through, tall, slender, dark hair pulled back. Her suit was close-fitting and made of a material that seemed to shift color slightly when she moved. She looked human, almost. Her eyes held a faint glow, like distant stars reflected in deep water. Fine silver markings traced along her temples and down her neck, barely visible unless the light caught them. She stood straight despite obvious exhaustion. I'm grateful for your assistance, she said. Jonah realized he was starring. Yeah, sure. Happens all the time. Strange glowing ships falling out of nowhere. Tuesday, right? She tilted her head slightly, unsure if that was humor. He cleared his throat. I'm Jonah, station mechanic, also janitor and cook. But we try not to talk about that. I am Lyra, she said. My ship requires immediate repair. Jonah walked past her toward the vessel and stopped dead. Up close, the hall wasn't just smooth. It felt warm, alive. His scanner buzzed in confusion when he held it near the surface. Okay, he breathed. Either my scanner's broken or your ship is. Breathing, Lyra placed her hand gently. Against the hull, the surface glowed. Faintly under her touch. It is partially bioengineered, she said. It responds to me, Jonah laughed. Softly in disbelief, of course it does. Why wouldn't it? He circled to the damaged side and saw deep scoring along the rear section. Not debris damage. Weapon fire. He glanced back at her. You hit a debris field, huh? She met his eyes evenly. Yes, Jonah didn't believe her, but he also didn't ask more. All right, he said, let's see what we can do. Hours passed. Jonah worked while Lyra watched, answering questions when she could. Her technology was far beyond anything human stations used. Systems were grown, not built. Circuits flowed like veins. Energy moved through crystalline nodes that shifted shape. Under his touch, it should have been impossible for him to understand. But machines were machines. They still break, Jonah muttered, and anything that breaks can be fixed. Lyra studied him carefully. Your tools are primitive, yet you adapt quickly. Yeah, he said. We're good at fixing things that weren't meant to be fixed. That made her pause. Later in the small station galley, Jonah handed her a food pouch. It's chicken, he said legally. She examined it like a science experiment. It smells aggressive. Accurate. She took a careful bite. Jonah waited. She nodded politely. It is efficient nourishment. That is the nicest lie anyone told me all year. For a moment they both smiled. The station felt less empty, but Jonah kept noticing something. Every few minutes, Lyra touched a small device at her belt. Each time her shoulders tightened slightly. Finally he leaned back in his chair. Okay, I'm just a mechanic, but I know what running from something looks like. She went still. You weren't hit by debris, he continued gently. Those are weapon burns. And you keep checking that tracker like bad news is getting closer. Silence filled the room. Then she spoke. Voice quieter. My people govern a vast region of space. I was born into leadership line. Jonah blinked. Your royalty. We do not use that word, but yes, he whistled softly. Huh, I knew I should have cleaned the station. Her lips twitched slightly, then faded. I am expected to bond with a military ruler, she said. Our union would secure political stability. Jonah frowned. And you don't want to. It would place great power in dangerous hands. So you ran. Yes, he leaned back slowly. Good. She looked at him surprised. Good. Yeah, sounds like you escaped a cage. She stared at him like he had spoken something unbelievable. Where I come from, she said. Duty comes before self. Where I come from, Jonah replied, we learned the hard way that duty without choice is an honor. It's just control. She looked away thinking. Then her device beeped, this time loud. She checked it. Her face went pale. They are here. Jonah rushed to the console. Long-range sensors lit up. A massive ship had entered the system, dark, angular, bristling with weapons. It made Jonah's little station look like a toolbox floating in space. A transmission came through. Unregistered station. You are harboring property of the High Accord. Prepare to transfer custody. Jonah looked at Lyra. Property, he repeated. She closed her eyes briefly. The voice continued, cold and precise. Failure to comply will be considered hostile action. Jonah turned slowly toward the comm panel, then back to Lyra, then to the screen showing the enormous warship. He took a breath. Well, he Said quietly, this just got interesting. The warship filled half the sensor screen Jonah Hale had seen military cruisers before, back when he worked in the busy inner systems. Those ships had looked powerful. This one looked inevitable. Dark plates overlapped across its hull, like armor on some ancient beast. Weapon arrays rotated slowly, tracking everything. Engines burned with controlled blue light, steady and patient. This was not a ship built to explore, it was built to enforce. Lyra stood beside Jonah at the console. Very still. They found me faster than expected, she said quietly. Jonah forced his hand to stay steady on the controls. How bad are they? They will not hesitate to disable this station, she replied. They will avoid killing you. If possible, your government would complain. Well, that's comforting, Jonah muttered. The comm chimed again. Station Kestrel. The voice said, calm and emotionless. Transfer the vessel and its pilot. You are not involved in this matter. Jonah glanced at Lyra. She looked smaller. Somehow, though she hadn't moved, not physically smaller. Just alone. He tapped the comm. Yeah. Hi, he said, you've got the wrong place. I'm just a mechanic. Lady came in with a busted engine. That's it. She is not a civilian traveler, the voice replied. She is bound by accord law. She is to be returned. Jonah muted the channel. Bound, he repeated softly, like an object. Didn't answer. Jonah exhaled through his nose, then looked at her. You want to go back, he asked. No, she said immediately, then quieter. But I will not see you harmed for my choice. Jonah scratched his beard. Yeah, that's the problem, because I'm about to do something very stupid. She frowned. What do you mean? He turned fully toward her. I mean, you're my guest. You came here for help. That makes you under my roof. He jerked a thumb toward the ceiling. And where I come from, you don't hand guests over to people who call them property. Lyra stared at him. They are an entire military power. Yep, they could end your career, your life here. Jonah gave a small shrug. I didn't move to the edge of nowhere to play it safe. For a second, something bright flickered in her eyes. Hope, fear, both. Jonah spun back to the console and started working fast. Okay, he said, thinking out loud. We can't beat them. We can't outrun them. So we confuse them. Lyra stepped closer. My ship systems are still damaged. Good, he said. Means they won't expect crazy. She blinked. Crazy human specialty. He pulled up station schematics. Your ship's cloak bends light and energy. Right? Yes, too clean, Jonah said. Too perfect. Military sensors are built to spot perfection. He opened a storage panel and yanked out a case of spare components. Old signal scramblers, mining sensor baffles, things no advanced alien engineer would ever use. We make your ship look like trash, he said. I beg your pardon. Floating junk. Background noise, random radiation. Spike's ugly signals. He grinned. Nobody suspects the garbage, despite everything. Lyra almost smiled. That is surprisingly logical. Don't sound so shocked. They hurried back into the hangar. Inside the bay, Jonah climbed onto Lyra's ship with a toolkit clipped to his belt. Up close, the living hall shimmered nervously, reacting to his rushed movements. Easy, he muttered, patting it. We're helping. Lyra placed her hand on the surface. The glow steadied. Jonah began attaching crude human devices along the ship's spine. These will inject random signal noise into your cloak field, he explained. Makes your energy footprint look like cosmic static they may interfere with my systems. Yep, that is dangerous. Also, yep, she looked at him. You are remarkably calm. I am absolutely not calm, he said. I'm just busy. Back in the control room, the warship moved closer. Station Kestrel, the voice came again. Your delay is noted. Prepare for boarding. Jonah opened the channel. Sorry, he said. Docking bay doors are stuck. Old station, you know how it is. We will assist. Please don't. He cut the channel before they could reply. Lyra's voice came over his shoulder. Jump drive. Charging 3 minutes to readiness. Jonah nodded. We just need to make them look the wrong way. He arrowed power from half the station's systems into the external comm array. Lights flickered. Gravity dimmed slightly. Jonah, Lyra warned, relax. I've always wanted to see what happens if I overclock a relay. Built in 2120. He blasted a wideband transmission burst directly at the warship. A chaotic storm of civilian signals, mining telemetry, broken beacon codes, and random noise on sensors. The area around the station exploded into digital static. The warship slowed. What are you doing? Lyra asked. Making a mess, Jonah said. Military ships hate mess. The enemy ship fired a warning pulse. Station shields flared, barely holding. Jonah flinched but kept working. Okay, that got my attention. 2 minutes, Lyra said. The warship shifted position, trying to scan through the interference. Jonah grinned suddenly. I've got an idea. It's bad. I expected nothing else. He triggered the station's old mining defense lasers, not aimed at the warship but at a nearby asteroid cluster. Rocks shattered, sending clouds of debris and dust spinning into space. Sensors filled with moving objects. False targets everywhere. The warship scans became even more cluttered. Jump drive ready, Lyra said softly. Jonah turned toward her. Then go. She didn't move. If I leave, she said, they may punish you later. Probably, he admitted. Silence stretched between them. Then he forced a grin. Good thing I'm very hard to intimidate and extremely annoying. Her expression shifted. Fear, gratitude, something deeper. I will remember this. She said. You better, he replied. I expect alien royalty discounts if I ever visit. For a brief second she laughed. Then she ran for her ship. Jonah watched from the control room as the organic vessel lifted smoothly from the hangar floor. The ugly human add-on sparked and flickered, feeding chaos into the elegant alien cloak. On sensors, the ship blurred, then dissolved into background radiation and debris noise. The warship reacted instantly, turning toward where it thought she was heading. Wrong direction. Lyra's ship shot the opposite way, hidden inside the confusion. Space twisted. She vanished into faster than light travel. Gone. The warship realized too late. Its sensors swept wildly but found nothing. Jonah opened the comm channel one last time. Looks like you lost something, he said. You have interfered in a core business. The cold voice replied. This will be remembered. Yeah, file a complaint. There was a long pause. Then the warship turned and left the system. Silence returned to Station Kestrel. Jonah sagged into his chair. Half the station was running on backup power. Warning lights blinked everywhere. He started laughing. That, he told, the empty room was incredibly stupid, but he didn't regret it. Hours later, after emergency repairs and 3 cups of terrible coffee, Jonah found a new Signal waiting in his inbox. Not text, not audio, a small crystal. Data packet glowing softly on his screen. He opened it, a projection. Filled the room, tall trees under a violet sky, their branches chiming musically in the wind, living buildings. Curved in the distance, ships grew like fruit from vast orbital gardens. Lyra stood in the image, safe, calm. Her message played, Jonah Hale, because of you I am free to choose my path. I do not yet know what that path will be, but I will walk it by my will, not in others. She paused. You showed me that kindness without obligation exists, that strength does not always come from power but from stubborn compassion. Her eyes softened. I will return one day, not as property, not as a fugitive, but as myself. The message ended. Jonah sat quietly for a long time, then he stood stretched and grabbed his tools. The station needed repairs, and maybe, just maybe, he should upgrade the sensors. After all, space didn't feel quite so empty anymore. The end.